line from the main knowledge to Deontic
This
process.
is
Yeah. So is that your work? That link?
No. That link is here, from here, from the Deontic process model into the requirement, into the control requirement. That the documentary procedure need to satisfy in order to safeguard the involved party in this process against potential opportunistic behavior.
Okay, so
Do you have a red pen?
Yes.
Draw a circle around the Deontic process.
yeah. Okay, so that's
Draw
your
a
starting
circle
point.
around control requirements.
Yes.
Are these your contribution?
Definitely. Definitely. Look
I
at
guess
it.
great. How much of it?
Let me put it away. I think it's not precise. Deontic process is not your contribution. Deontic process is whatever in the domain.
But how they can do? What is the formalism they can do?
Formulation of the Deontic process.
Right.
That's right. It's
that's right.
how to represent. It's not Deontic process itself.
Deontic process is getting from
Yes, expert. That's what I'm saying.
But how to formally
Why don't you
represent
call
the
it
Deontic
Deontic
process?
procedure?
So how you represent the process?
Represent the Deontic process so
Okay.
that you can write a program and then
that's fine.
That's the
Yeah, I understand what he did, but that's the way he described it. He's not trying to figure out the Deontic process itself. That's not part of it. It's try to find a way to represent the
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah.
So that a
Okay.
legal expert could provide you with the abstract Deontic process.
Definitely.
Sure,
Definitely.
okay.
Let me frame the contribution again so it's
Yeah.
more clear. Okay.
Yeah.
What I contribute is there are two areas here very clear. The first thing is I provide the formalism, namely Deontic patronage for modeling Deontic process.
Right.
Okay. I also show a set of examples to apply the formalism to certain applications, including the Carson and Bain documentaries. This can be considered as a contribution. So people need to use the sample model in order to do their real work. Okay. Another contribution, the key or the principal contribution of the research is the method for deriving control requirement. As the title of the dissertation, this is the formal method for deriving control requirement. But we need to model. We need to have a formal model. Otherwise, we cannot derive.
Right. So basically, now you have a way to implement the formal model, right? The implementation itself you call the control requirements, or whatever the result the generate from implementation is called control requirements.
I don't
Is that
mean
right?
the concept
Not the
implementation.
implementation. What he is doing is, you have a document, the
Right.
Deontic knowledge.
Right.
Now the Deontic knowledge, he has developed a
Let's say
formal way of representing that in a
That's right.
Deontic in a controlled way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And that is the second one.
Right.
The first
one.
The first one. And the second one is, once you have all these controls, then to find out an efficient way of representing the original process, so that you can simplify the process.
So there is that
Because
line
the whole objective is to simplify the process, and to simplify the process, you have to take out some of the control, you have to add some of the control and all those things. So once you formalize that, then only you can say, okay, this control is duplicate. Just a very simple way of thinking about it. This control is duplicate, so let's take out this control from here. So that's a very high level.
Right. But how do you know whether it's complicated? Then against what the thing is? Those control requirements now are based on different documents?
No. The control requirement here is after you model the Deontic process,
Right.
you have the obligation, right, and so forth, the underlying thing that people need to accomplish in the transaction, right? And now, what a document procedure needs to be specified in order to secure, to limit the opportunistic behavior in the Deontic process. For instance, I have no right, but I have an evidence of violating our right. That is not a secure procedure. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Just can you quickly explain those two boxes? What's the relationship? I want to just see.
The box here,
Yeah.
the box here.
No, those
This
two.
one?
Yeah, those two
This one, this
contributions.
one, this
Yeah.
one? Okay.
Not this one. This one. Formal, you can model it. I know that. But for model and the
Can I insert just one
right.
observation that may help clarify a little bit? The really important, the driving motivation between the deontic process and these documentary processes over here is that deontics per se is not visible.
Right.
I promise you something, you have an obligation, there's a prohibition, but in particular, like in contracts, you know, I promise I'm going to do something tomorrow, and then tomorrow I deny that I had a promise. So how do you, when do you feel confident that you can rely on my promise? And so that's why all this documentation, or in some pre-literate societies, ceremonies, or wedding rings, and all this other stuff, is to make the deontics visible. It's sort of like that's why it's like deep structure and surface structure. We may have a thought, and then we enunciate it in words. The problem is there's good ways and bad ways to make it visible. This is where all the transaction costs come. And we're trying to find ways, improved ways, but so somebody else, this original paper that I cited, points out that in developing countries, the procedure may be as much as 50 times more complicated than it is in other countries. Why? Do they need that? Does the culture really require all that many extra controls? Or maybe there's an easier way of doing it. And then when you're trying to do international trade, you have to resolve this. You have to somehow harmonize between these. You really need this deep structure.
Yeah, I know the purpose. What I'm saying, the second of these control requirements from where? From that map, where it's from?
From formalism.
Right. From looking at the deontic process.
I agree.
So actually, there's arrow from the deontic process to control requirements.
Professor Sudong,
yeah,
that's it.
Okay.
I would say from formalism.
This is the input. Given the deontic process,
Right.
then we analyze. I analyze a set of deontic process, as you see here, and the methods for deriving deontic analysis I just showed here. I spent like a chapter to analyze how can we come up with principles for deriving control requirements from deontic processes. And what I look at all of the pattern of deontic chain. What is possible deontic chain in all of the deontic process model. And what is possible relationship in the deontic process. There are two aspects. The static aspect between the relationship between parties involved in the transaction, and the dynamic aspect in the chain of deontic state. And I identify the taxonomies of deontic chain and deontic relationship. And based on this one, derive a set of control principles, and use that principle to derive control requirements. So this is like an instant, a specific model, and I have analyzed a source of different structure there, and I came up with a pool, like you may see like a pool of knowledge or a library of control principle, and then I input a specific deontic process and derive a control requirement.
Okay, so you have something else, and then together that you derive the control requirements, right?
Yes, that's right. That's here. That's actually one contribution of the research.
Yeah.
Besides the formalism, this is the method for analyzing deontic process. So for contribution of the research includes a formalism for modeling deontic process.
Which slide are you on now?
I will come to slide 19 very soon. We finished it already. Just my first. Yeah. Okay. Formalism for modeling deontic process. A method for analyzing deontic process.
Which slide is that on? These four. You're saying four.
Here, I show us here. Right here. Look here. Look here.
Oh,
it's from slide 13. Right. This is about the formalism for modeling deontic process. This is the method for analyzing deontic process to come up with a set of 10 principles for deriving control requirements. This is the formal specific, this is the set of the resulting, the method for deriving principle and the result control principle. And then the formal specification of the principle. We may consider the two as one contribution. And then the implementation. The implementation in the program. So now we come to the validation we just said, theoretical implementability. I should modify that. And practical relevance. Now we come up the contribution of the research. The first contribution of the research is the redesign methodology. As I say here, the redesign methodology, instead of looking at the flow of document and data, here I'm looking at the underlying deontic purpose, which temporarily called the deontic deep structure. Here we cannot see a right on obligation. We see a document, we see a control activity. So I represent a redesign methodology to explicate the underlying deontic structure of procedure.